political crisis that was caused by 45's racist tweets that he had sent out the other day. 45's own top aides didn't think he fully understood what he had done last Sunday when he fired off a trio of racist tweets before a trip to his golf course. 45 knew exactly what he was doing, but he doesn't listen to anybody. After he returned to the White House, his senior advisor Smellian Khanjab felt compelled to tell him why the missives were leading newscasts around the country, upsetting allies and enraging opponents. He called on 4 minority congressmen, all citizens who were all born here, all 4 of them were born in the U.S., to go back to their totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came, had hit a painful historical nerve. 45 defended himself. He had been watching Fox and Friends after waking up. He'd been watching Foe and Friends after waking up. He wanted to elevate the congresswomen, as he had previously discussed with aides, the Democratic lawmakers, which are Ayanna Presley from Massachusetts, Ilhan Omar from Minnesota, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York, and Rashida Tlaib from Michigan were good foils. He had told his advisors, including campaign manager Brad Parscale. The squatters said he thought he was interjecting himself into the Democratic Party politics in a good way. He wasn't. As is often the case, 45 acted alone, impulsively following his gut to the dark side of American politics, and now the country would have to pick up the pieces. The day before, on his golf course, he hadn't brought it up. Over the coming days, dozens of his so-called friends, which are pedophiles, advisors, and political allies, would work behind the scenes to try to fix the mess, without any public admission of error, because that was not the 45 way. He realized that part of it was not playing well, said 45's lapdog, Lindsey Graham, a 45 confidant who golfed Saturday with the squatter and spoke to him about it on Monday. While he always doubles down, then he adjusts. Like others, Graham urged 45 to refrain away from the racist notion at the core of the tweets that only European immigrants or their descendants are entitled to criticize the country. Advisors wrote new talking points and handed him reams of opposition research on the 4 congresswomen. Pivot to patriotism, focus on their ideas and behavior, not identity. Some would still see a racist agenda. The argument went on, but at least it would not be so explicit. The goal is to push back against them and make it not about you, Graham said. The damage control did not save elected Republicans from their chronic struggle to navigate 45 success. Democrats were demanding a reckoning and vote on the floor of the House condemning his racist remarks that he would showcase their own unity and moral vision. The White House would mobilize an intense whip operation, putting 45 repeatedly on the phone to keep his members in line. Then, just as many felt the firestorm was coming under control, 45's own supporters would set it ablaze again with the "Send Her Back" chant on Wednesday at one of his Klan rallies in Greenville, North Carolina, inspired by the squatter's own words. This account of 45's tweets and their aftermath is based on interviews with the 26 White House aides, advisors, lawmakers, and others involved in the response, most of them who spoke on the condition of anonymity to share behind-the-scenes details. The political crisis was both familiar and extraordinary, engulfing every aspect of American politics, from the squatters' campaign to the White House to Capitol Hill. Many in both parties, well acquainted with 45's history of racially charged rhetoric, were stunned at how far he had gone this time. Republicans were fearful of the potential damage, but reluctant to confront or contradict 45. The White House and the 45 campaign sought to contain the furor without alienating key supporters. Democrats finally unified after a week of squabbling around to roundly condemn the squatter. And at key moments, there were attempts to pretend it hadn't happened at all. When Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell talked to 45 early in the week about ongoing budget negotiations, the tweets never even came up, according to 2 people familiar with the conversations. In the end, 45 succeeded in at least one aspect. Just a few days earlier, he had publicly pined for the days when he could put out a tweet that took off like a rocket. Now he had done it again. Americans had to choose sides, and he had drawn the dividing line, making America white again. When 45 woke up to tweet on July 14th, the nation's leadership was scattered, its attention focused elsewhere. Acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney was out of town. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi from California had flown back home to San Francisco. The leaders of the House Republicans caucus, the douchebag Kevin McCarthy and dumbass Steve Scalise, were all at a fundraising retreat at the Nemacolin Woodlands Resort in Pennsylvania. Of the group, only Pelosi, who sleeps just a handful of hours most nights, acted quickly. 45's tweets landed about 4:30 a.m. on the West Coast within 3 hours, just as 45 was arriving at his Virginia golf club. She had condemned his words on Twitter, calling out the racial tone directly, saying 45's plan to make America great again has always been about making America white again. 45's eruption gave her a chance to move beyond an irritated and increasingly personal split with the four congresswomen. They had been furious when Pelosi and the rest of the Democratic caucus declined to follow their guidance on a recent immigration funding vote. Now they were united. At a joint news conference by the four lawmakers late Monday, Omar said 45's tweets represented the agenda of white nationalists. Democratic candidates for the squatter reacted quickly. Who are running for president reacted quickly with outrage and offered support from embattled House lawmakers. Senator Kamala Harris, the child of an Indian mother and a Jamaican father, told her campaign staff that she had been targeted by the same go-home attack in an emotional response. At an Iowa event Tuesday, Harris said 45 had defiled his office and it has to stop. I'm going to tell you that what my mother told me. Don't you ever let anyone tell you who you are. You tell them who you are, period, Harris said, growing visibly angry as she spoke. We are Americans and we will speak with authority of that voice. 45's own campaign, by contrast, was caught off guard by the tweets and didn't know initially how to respond. Top aides have been bragging about their ability to fundraise and capitalize on social media advertising when the squatter blew up a news cycle, but they placed no Facebook aides to aid this rise. It says the Republican National Committee was silent for more than a day. No one wanted to touch it, advisors said. People have been through so many of these with him, said one Republican involved in the fight. Cliff Sims, a former West Wing aide to 45, that explained the mentality that still governs the building. The people who thrive and survive over the long term are the ones who are okay with going where the squatter leads, he said. But as the work week began, it became clear that the uproar could not be ignored. A person involved in the squatter's fundraising efforts said many donors were dismayed by the comments, but there was a scant desire to back away from the squatter publicly. You put your head up, and you get it cut off, this person said, and then everyone remembers you weren't loyal when this blows over. Many Republican lawmakers demurred or tried to find a middle ground, avoiding direct criticism of 45 while nonetheless expressing face-saving dissatisfaction. We should focus on ways to bring people together, said Senator Cory Gardner, who faces a tough re-election race next year in Colorado. Yeah, so basically he wants to make America white again, but we gotta find a way to get him out of office so that we can be saved.